Charlotte Hornets fall back to 500 with a 124-121 loss at the Washington Wizards Monday night. Here to talk about it, Locked On Hornets host Walker Mehl. Walker, first thing that jumps out, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the game, a blown opportunity to put away a series against a team you might be jockeying for position with late in the year.
Disappointing to see this type of game from the Charlotte Hornets and come out with a sluggish start, because we've seen this so many times before. Defensively, the Hornets are one of the worst teams in the NBA, but in that 3-game winning streak, they showed that at least they can show some kind of effort, and it really goes a long way to not dig themselves in these massive holes that they usually do in the first quarter. But here they allow 38 in the first, they allow 40 in the fourth, and so you have bookends of just not very good basketball, especially on one end of the floor. But now you have the Wizards going a game above 500. The Charlotte Hornets, they fall back to 500, and this is a team that you're competing with as far as seeding goes in the NBA postseason. Nick, this is a NBA playoff mandated season for the Charlotte Hornets that they continued to remind you of during Hornets Media Day to open up the season. And they're certainly in contention. I think they absolutely can get one of those top 6 spots and avoid the play-in tournament altogether. But if they don't, then at the end of the season, you're going to be pointing to games like tonight as to maybe the reason why, especially with a team so close to what your record is.
Okay, you mentioned the first and the fourth quarter. Slow starts we're used to, but then the Hornets climb back in. They take the lead at halftime. They really are in control of the game. What did you see from them in the fourth quarter that was so disappointing?
Kyle Kuzma got hot from the corner. They allowed him to get just a little bit of daylight to shoot some of those three-pointers. Some of it is just bad defense that the Hornets couldn't close with. Some of it's really good shot making. Bradley Beal, of course, getting to the foul line a bunch and hitting a lot of those free throws. One of the better players in the NBA. But also you just had some missed shots from the Charlotte Hornets, and they were going back and forth a while, but there were some key missed shots. Gordon Hayward comes to mind in the paint where he missed a bunny. There was one where I think he should have hit it. And then there's another where LaMelo kind of hoist went up from deep. Not the greatest shooting night from one LaMelo Ball, despite having good control of the game, especially early on. Just later, not able to come up with some of those shots. And even Terry's made 3 at the very end, just a little too late, and unfortunately not able to do enough at the end. And so, of course, when you have a bad first quarter, you can't have a bad fourth quarter as well to compound that. And that's exactly what happened with the Charlotte Hornets in an unfortunate loss tonight.
Yeah, we've gotten used to this team executing well down the stretch. Does any of what happened tonight scare you going forward, or you just think it's kind of a one-off end of a back-to-back?
Yeah, I think it's the second night of a back-to-back. And what concerns me more so, even a game like last night against the Phoenix Suns, it was the lack of defensive effort after showcasing a lot of that in that 3-game winning streak that we just mentioned, and then to come out as flat as they did against Phoenix, where the game's over in the second half, or first half. Phoenix is too good to allow you back in it, even when you come out of the locker room. At least they showed some sense of urgency in the second quarter. Miles Bridges was a lot more aggressive. I thought he had it going tonight. Gordon did hit a lot more shots early on, despite that missed shot in the paint I just mentioned. And so I thought, okay, now the Hornets can get things back on track. They still were hitting enough shots to keep somewhat pace with Washington until the very end. And so if you're asking if this is going to be some big picture scare that we suffered here tonight as Charlotte Hornets fans, I don't think so. I think this is too good of a basketball team to allow this to settle in and this be the identity. It's the first quarter things that have to fix itself. That's proven to be a problem all year long. But the closing of the games, usually that's pretty good for Charlotte. And I think some time down the line, maybe even the next game, it'll come back on track.
I got to ask about this, Walker, because it was so glaring. 31 trips to the stripe for Washington. They hit 28. The Hornets get there 13 times, so less than half, much less than half, but they only hit about half of them. They hit 7 of them, missed 6.
Yeah, it's brutal. And this is exactly what has happened to the Charlotte Hornets in previous games. You know, we have seen them kind of foul a lot, and the Washington Wizards or any other team that they'll play, they'll sometimes go to the free throw line, and there's that disparity. And especially when you miss as many as you did, it's always going to hurt the Charlotte Hornets in that regard. I think not having P.J. Washington, who's still out due to health and safety protocols, it really does provide this big-time absence down low post defense. He's still, despite not being as tall as a Mason Plumlee or a Nick Richards, PJ Washington does provide some resistance. He is one of the better defenders on this Hornets team. And so when you get a Cody Martin, a Jalen McDaniels back from safety protocols like they were kind of in the last couple of weeks, Miles Bridges trying to catch his breath, second game back from those protocols as well. Maybe when PJ Washington comes back, they can get back on track in that regard, not foul as much, but they have to hit the free throws when they get there, and they certainly can't foul as much as they did against Washington. Not a recipe for success.
All right, Hornets next up at home against the Pistons. That is a big one, mostly because on the other side of it sit the Milwaukee Bucks, the defending champions, coming to town for 2 games over the weekend. You can and you should listen to Walker Mehl on Locked On Hornets every day. Thank you, Walker.
I appreciate it, Nick. Thanks again.